You know, every single workplace, no matter how safe it seems, has hidden dangers. So today, we're going to build a mental map, a way to spot them before they cause trouble. We'll break down the 6 official types of industrial hazards, using India as a case study to really understand what's causing harm on the job. Let's dive in.
So here's the big question, right? India has rolled out these brand new, comprehensive safety laws. You'd think that would solve the problem, but serious accidents keep making the news. So what's the deal? What's the disconnect between the rules on paper and the reality on the ground? Well, it all comes down to one fundamental skill.
It really boils down to this one simple but incredibly powerful idea. Before you can do anything else, control a risk, make an emergency plan, train your team, you first have to be able to see the danger and name it. Hazard recognition is the absolute foundation of safety. If that first link in the chain breaks, the whole system just falls apart.
Okay, so to get really good at spotting these things, we need a kind of map. And luckily, there's a globally accepted framework. Think of it like the rulebook used by big organizations like OSHA and the ILO. It breaks down all workplace risks into 6 main categories. Let's walk through them together.
All right, we're going to start with the first 3 categories. I want you to think of these as the acute dangers. These are the ones that cause immediate, sudden, and usually pretty visible harm. You know, the classic industrial accidents you might picture in your head.
First on our list, physical hazards. Now, the key concept here sounds a bit technical, but it's actually super simple. It's all about a harmful transfer of energy. That's it. Whether it's the kinetic energy from a falling object or the thermal energy from a scorching hot surface, the danger comes when that uncontrolled energy hits a person. And we see this play out in the real world all the time, right? Unguarded gears on a machine. That can lead to amputations. A simple frayed wire. Boom, electric shock. That constant, loud noise in a factory, over time, that's permanent hearing loss. It's a very direct cause and effect, and you see it a ton in construction, manufacturing, and power plants.
Okay, next up, we've got chemical hazards. And look, this isn't just about a big drum of acid spilling on the floor. The key thing to remember here is that the danger can be in any state of matter, solid, liquid, or gas. Think about invisible welding fumes or that super fine silica dust you can't even see floating in the air at a construction site. The results from these hazards are just devastating. And they can be immediate, like a chemical burn that happens in a second, or they can be tragically slow, creeping up on you over years. I'm talking about things like the lung disease silicosis from breathing in that dust, or cancer from asbestos exposure. These are the kinds of risks that dominate industries like chemical plants, pharma, and mining.
All right, our third acute danger is what we call mechanical or safety hazards. This is all about the physical setup of the workplace itself, the equipment, the buildings, the day-to-day procedures. You kind of have to ask yourself, is the environment itself a trap just waiting to be sprung?
Yeah, this covers a whole range of things. A missing guard on a machine, shaky scaffolding, or an unventilated confined space. And it's no surprise that these hazards lead to some of the most common and deadliest accidents. Falls from height, being struck by an object, or getting caught in machinery.
Okay, so we've covered the immediate dangers. Now let's flip to the other side of our map, the chronic dangers. These are way less visible than a fall or a burn. Their effects are gradual, they build up over time, but believe me, they can be just as damaging.
Let's talk about biological hazards. This is all about being exposed to living things. We're talking bacteria, viruses, fungi, that kind of stuff. The danger here is often microscopic, totally unseen, just lurking in waste, in the air, or on surfaces you touch. So for a nurse or a doctor, the risk could be a blood-borne pathogen like hepatitis from an accidental needle stick. For someone working on a farm, it might be bacteria from animals. And if you work in food processing, it could be mold in the air. See? The outcome isn't a sudden injury, it's an infection or a serious long-term illness. Next, we have ergonomic hazards, and these are everywhere. The core idea is a mismatch. The job is forcing the human body into positions or to make movements that cause strain over time. To put it really simply, the work doesn't fit the worker. Just picture it, a garment worker making the exact same stitching motion thousands of times a day, or an assembly line worker who's constantly reaching overhead, or a brick kiln worker lifting heavy, awkward loads all day long. The result isn't one big accident. It's chronic pain, it's musculoskeletal disorders that can literally end someone's career.
And that brings us to our 6th and final category, psychosocial hazards. Now, this one is really about how the work is organized, how it's managed, and honestly, how it makes us feel.
It's not about a physical danger, it's about the stuff that messes with our mental and emotional well-being.
Things like an insane workload, constant pressure, bullying from a manager, or just the stress of job insecurity. These aren't just part of the job. No way. They are recognized hazards, and they have severe health outcomes, like chronic stress, burnout, and can even lead to heart disease. We see this all the time in high-pressure jobs, like call centers, healthcare, and the gig economy.
So there you have it. That's the 6-part framework. That's our map. But now, let's make it real. Let's apply it. What does the recent data from India actually tell us about which of these hazards are causing the most damage?
Okay, when you look at what's actually killing people on the job, the data is just brutally clear. Mechanical and safety hazards, we're talking falls, machinery accidents, they are still, by far, the biggest cause of fatalities. And why is that? Well, because they're always there in high-risk industries like construction, and all it takes is 1 second of inattention for it to be fatal. They're obvious, but they are completely unforgiving.
But when we switch gears and look at occupational diseases, the slow burn stuff, the story completely changes. Here, it's the chemical hazards that are the main driver. This is where you see the devastating long-term impact of being exposed to things like silica dust, which is causing a massive number of incurable lung diseases across the country.
And there's one more trend that we just absolutely cannot ignore. The fastest rising threat right now is psychosocial. As work changes, moving more towards services and knowledge work, the pressures of the modern workplace are driving a huge surge in stress and burnout. And we can actually track this through data on things like sick days and health claims.
Okay, so with all this data, all these categories, it can feel a little overwhelming. So where should we focus our energy to make the biggest possible difference? Well, that leads us to a really simple but powerful rule for prevention.
80 to 90%. Just look at that number. Study after study shows that 80 to 90% of all serious accidents are caused by just a handful of the same repeating hazards. We're talking falls, electrical contact, unguarded machines, and being struck by objects. It's the same few things, over and over again.
And this brings us right back to where we started. Remember that puzzle? New laws are great. They tell you what to do, but they just don't work unless the people on the ground know how to apply them. This is the ultimate takeaway. You don't have to be an expert in every single thing. If you can just get really, really good at spotting those few common high-risk hazards, you gain what you could call disproportionately high preventative power.
So I'll leave you with this thought. Now that you have this 6-category map, I want you to look around your own life, your workplace, your commute, even just walking around your house. What's the biggest hazard that you see every single day?